Hello, I'm Carolyn Ribeiro from mining.com.au. I'm joined today by Pan Asia Metals Managing Director Paul Locke. Paul, nice to see you.
Good to see you, Carolyn.
To kick things off, tin was historically mined in Thailand. So how did Pan Asia come to explore the region for lithium?
Well, Pan Asia originally started in Myanmar looking for tin and tungsten. So the Southeast Asian tin tungsten belt runs through southern Myanmar, southern Thailand and Malaysia to the Tin Islands in Indonesia. Perak in Malaysia was the largest tin mining district in the world, and where we are in Thailand, Phang Nga, was the second largest tin mining district in the world. And with tin and tantalum, there is sometimes an association with lithium. So CXO, with their project in the Northern Territory, they're actually in old tin fields. Where we are in Thailand, they're old tin mines. So that we were looking for tin tungsten, but then the lithium thing started in 2016 and we were looking for lithium.
And how does exploration in Southeast Asia compare to exploration in Australia?
Well, they're very different environments. So the application process is reversed. In Australia, you can lodge your application online in a couple of minutes, but then you have to go through the application process to get your license, and then you have to go through the permissions process to explore and drill. In Thailand, it's the reverse. When you lodge your application, you go through your process with all the stakeholders, and then when you get your license, you're ready to do any exploration you want. The advantage in Southeast Asia is that if you change your drill pattern or anything like that, you don't have to get a new permission. You can just go on as you want.
And what about costs associated with exploration?
So it's a much cheaper operating environment. We've got a full team of qualified geologists. They're very good, and they cost about a third of what they would cost here. And our drilling rates for diamond are about $100 a metre. In Australia, it's around $250 or so.
Yep. Is there any political risk?
Well, there's political risk everywhere. So in WA, with Rio Tinto and the Jorgan Caves, that introduced a whole new level of political risk for Western Australian explorers. And we're seeing the ramifications of that now with these new mining policies. In other jurisdictions, there's different sorts of political risk, but if you manage them well, and if you're a good corporate citizen, and you work with your communities and government, the political risk is reduced, just like anywhere else. People are people at the end of the day. They want to be treated well, be respected, and if you can do that, you're generally okay.
What's the company's position in Thailand?
Well, Pan Asia's objective is to become an integrated supplier of lithium chemicals. So at Rio Ket, or RK, at that project, we call it the Concentrate to CAM initiative, and the objective there is to produce a definitive feasibility study to produce a concentrate and then a lithium chemical, probably lithium carbonate, and then we want to joint venture that chemical with a knowledge partner to produce cathode active material. In Vietnam, the MOU with VinES, that's a standalone lithium conversion facility which will use third-party sources of spodumene concentrate, most likely, to process and produce lithium carbonate.
And as far as your downstream processing plans go, are you looking to do this solely in Southeast Asia and Thailand?
Well, one of the reasons we're in Southeast Asia is the advantageous cost environment. So looking at processing, we would be planning to bring basic products like concentrates into Southeast Asia and then processing them into chemicals. So similar to our exploration costs, processing and manufacturing in Southeast Asia is much cheaper. So I can use the example of a conversion facility to produce lithium carbonate, for instance. It would cost probably about 33% less in operating costs to do the same thing in Southeast Asia. So there's huge advantages.
Mm-hmm. What are the controls on the mineralisation at Ruang Kiet? Can we expect a resource upgrade?
Yes, actually our poor investors have been waiting for a while, but the resource upgrade comes subsequent to drilling and then assaying. And we were originally going to deliver a resource upgrade at the RK prospect, the southern prospect, in December. But as we kept drilling south, it kept getting better and better. So we kept delaying it. And also assay processing time is stretching out, and everyone's got this problem at the moment. We are expecting a resource upgrade for RK very soon, so we should see some good tonnes added there. And then at Bangi Tum, which is to the north, we've got an exploration target there. With our fantastic drilling results, we'll be expanding that exploration target, and we're aiming to deliver a mineral resource estimate a bit later this year.
Great. I want to talk now about the geothermal fields in the company's Katatong area. How do these fields impact your work?
Well, they don't really. We look at the geothermal as an option. So when we secured the Katatong project, which is a combination of 5 different blocks, 2 of those blocks do have geothermal fields in them, and one of the blocks abuts a granite intrusion with very high lithium background. But our view then, and we appreciate there's a lot of focus on geothermal, but we're a big believer in if we do go down a track, we don't want to unintentionally mislead our investors. So at that point, Vulcan was working on its Ryan Valley geothermal. We've got Lake Resources working with Lilac and a few other initiatives. And we wanted to see how all of that goes before we get too focused on geothermal. And so we believe that was a good decision because we've seen a few delays in the area. And when someone's producing lithium from geothermal, then we'll get excited about it. It's always going to be there, but our focus is really hard rock.
And speaking about the hard rock, we talk about lepidolite style lithium. How is it different?
Well, lepidolite is a pegmatite, but there's a bit of a grade difference, and it's defined as lepidolite because it's just got slightly different chemistry. So lepidolite typically has rubidium and cesium in it. The grades vary. So in China, lepidolite is mined from anywhere of 0.2% Li2O through to around 0.6, 0.7% Li2O. But when we look at the sources of lithium, if we look at brines, they typically start at, say, 200 ppm, which is 0.02%, Li, so it's about 0.5% lithium oxide, Li2O. If we look at clays, they go from 1,000 ppm through to, say, 3,000 ppm. If we look at the markers, including lepidolite, zinnwaldite, and a few others, they typically start around 0.3 and go through to 0.7% Li2O, and then the spodumene starts around 0.7, 0.8 through to 1.3 or 4. So it's a lower grade, but when you process minerals, it depends where you are to the real cost of processing. So because we're in a very low cost environment, we expect to be very competitive compared to our peers. And we can actually, hand on heart, justify that because we have a cost curve in our presentation and the information comes from Wood Mackenzie. And in that are Chinese lepidolite processors producing battery-grade lithium carbonate, and their head grades are typically about 0.2 through to 0.6%. The higher grade Chinese projects are at the bottom of the cost curve. So that's how we compare it.
Yep, great. What exposure is there to downstream manufacturers and electric vehicle producers in Southeast Asia?
Huge exposure, and that's one of our big advantages. So in Thailand, Thailand's the 4th largest auto producer in Asia, the largest in Southeast Asia. They've got a whole policy set wrapped around making sure that leadership position is maintained into EVs. We've got over 20 auto manufacturers there, and Mercedes is already producing its EQS EV there. So if we see one on our roads here in Australia, it's from Thailand. Several Chinese companies have started producing. Great Wall is going to make Thailand its ASEAN focus point. And then there's a whole other raft of companies coming through. So right now in Thailand, there are 18 battery projects and 14 BEV or battery electric vehicle projects. And then there's a whole raft of companies supporting that which are moving in.
You've talked about a lot of exciting things. Just in summary, what can mining.com.au investors look forward to from Pan Asia Metals over the next half of this year?
Well, we've got a big year this year. So at Rion Ket, we've got a mineral resource estimate update coming very soon. At the Bangi Tum prospect, we'll have an exploration target upgrade, which is drill supported. then a mineral resource estimate. For both prospects, we expect to be able to deliver a PFS this year. For both prospects, we'll be submitting mining licence applications at the later point of this year, very early next year. We've got a lot of test work coming through. And then with our VinES standalone lithium conversion facility venture, we will be producing a PFS within about 2 months, and then we'll follow through with a comprehensive joint venture agreement, and then through to DFS and decision to fund. And then we've got some other stuff happening in the background, which is exciting. So there's a fair bit coming through.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Paul.
Thanks, Caroline.